Most traders with small amounts don't blow it on one bad trade. They blow it on one bad belief. That goal is to turn 1,000 into 10,000 as fast as possible. And that belief slowly poisons every decision they make from that point forward. So in this video, I'm going to show you the 4 mindset shifts that turn tiny trading accounts into life-changing wealth, and how anyone can easily develop the skill set to grow a 6 or even 7-figure trading account. Let me start with something that most people get wrong about why traders fail. It's not laziness, it's not a bad strategy. It's that they confuse being active in the market with working hard, and they mistake patience for weakness. I had a client, let's call him Steve. Early in his career, when we were looking at his trading together, a pattern emerged immediately. 90% of the time he was focused, disciplined, executing well. But that 10% of the time was undoing everything. Here's what was really going on. Steve had built his entire identity around being number one. He'd always been the hardest worker in the room, and in every area of his life, whether academics or sports, he had been rewarded. So when he worked hard and the market didn't reward him, when one setup failed, then another, then a third, something cracked. It wasn't frustration, it was injustice. He felt the market owed him. When he lost after a disciplined session, it felt unfair. Other traders being up while he was down felt like a personal slight, and the idea of a red week was unacceptable. A red month was unthinkable, and by the time he did 3 or 4 losing trades in a row, he wasn't trading anymore. He was arguing with the market, trying to win an argument with something that didn't even know he existed. What Steve hadn't yet understood is this. The market doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about your work ethic. Like a black belt in Taekwondo, it will find your weak point and apply maximum pressure. That is until you either fix it or blow your account. For Steve, that one weak point was fairness. For others, it's ego, or boredom, or fear of missing out. The market doesn't discriminate. Like water in a dam, it just finds the cracks. So when I was working with Steve, I didn't give him a new strategy or a set of rules. I gave him a different race to run. I asked him to imagine he was in a 100-meter sprint against every other trader in his office. He'd give it everything, but he lost by 1 second. I asked him how he felt. Angry, he said, immediately. I asked him to imagine the same race, but this time it's 1,000 meters, and after the first 100 meters, he's just 1 second behind. How does he feel now? Different, motivated, still in it. Now I asked him to picture a marathon. He'd just come round the very first bend. He's a few seconds off the pace, and I asked him, does any serious marathon runner panic about their time after the first corner? Of course not. The race has barely started. That was the shift for Steve. Not slowing down. He's still competitive, still wants to win, still wants to be the best trader in the room, but the rules have changed. He had to think in years, not in days. The moment that landed, everything else changed with it. A drawdown stopped being a threat to his identity. It became data, an opportunity to find the crack before it became a canyon. A red week wasn't a verdict anymore. It was one corner of a very long race. And that reframe alone transformed his consistency within 2 months. And that's why the first mindset shift is you need to pace yourself and understand that you need to think in years, not in days. Next, we're going to talk about how to be consistent when managing a smaller account and not blow it up out of frustration. But right before we do that, if you're a trader who wants to improve your results, I have an intensive trader mindset coaching program called Elevate. It's where we break down all your mental game issues and work on them one by one, be it overtrading, hesitation, sizing issues, whatever else that might be holding you back. So if you'd like to learn more, hit the first link in the description, book a 30-minute call right into my diary. We can have a chat and see if it makes sense to work together. Let me ask you something. Would you rather $10 million today or $1 doubled 30 times in a row? Let's pretend for a second you said you'd take the dollar. If you doubled it for 10 days, you'd have about $1,000. 10 million's looking pretty nice right now. Double it for 20 days, now you have $1 million. Feeling slightly better about your choices. If you double it for 30 days in a row, you would be a billionaire. Here's why that matters. The human brain is generally terrible at understanding exponential growth. We think in straight lines. A little more effort, a little more reward. So when most traders look at $1,000, they see something disposable, a rounding error, something to spin up so they can start trading seriously. But a trader who builds real wealth looks at that same $1,000 and sees the start of something. The truth is, if you can't manage a 1K account, what makes you think you can manage a 100K account? Now, Let's look at an actual trading example. Well, if you start with 1K and after costs made 3% a week, your growth looks like this. After 1 year, you now have $4,650. After 3 years, you now have about 100K. After 5 years, you have 2.19 million. Is 3% per week really that hard once you put in the work? No. It's staying the course long enough for the maths to actually matter. Several of my clients this year have had 7-figure months, even a couple have had 7-figure days. The average person has their mind blown that someone could make $1 million in just 10 hours. But like the founder of Walmart, Sam Walton, once said, everyone said that Walmart was an overnight success, and they were right. But what they didn't understand was, like most overnight successes, it was 20 years in the making. The compounding doesn't fail because of the market, it fails because your behavior becomes inconsistent. So now you understand why the timeline matters. How do we manage our emotions when the markets aren't lining up with our edge? I had a client, let's call him Ryan. Very strong trader, but his monthly results were all over the place. Some months were legendary, some months he'd give it all back. When we tracked it, the pattern was clear. Every blow-up had the same fingerprint. Slow morning, no clean setups, and then a cluster of trades. 4, 5, sometimes 6, all taken with a short 1 to 2 hour window. None of them fully qualifying, all of them losing. He wasn't indisciplined in the way people imagine. He was just really, really bad at doing nothing. So we did something simple. I asked him to write down before every session what his A and B grade setups actually looked like. Every criteria, every condition, and then I give him one rule. If you can't tick every single box, you don't make the trade. Not most boxes, every box. The first 2 weeks were uncomfortable. He described it as almost physically painful to watch setups he would have previously taken and do nothing. But here's what happened. His trading frequency dropped by about 60%, and his profitability went up by even more than that. Because here's the truth about patience. It's not about slowing down. It's about only spending your bullets on targets worth shooting. And there's a question I give every trader I work with. Before you enter a trade, ask yourself, would I take this trade if I was already up today? Patience isn't weakness, and it's not being passive. Patience is the most aggressive form of capital protection there is. What happens when you experience a big loss and you have the urge to make it back instantly? A clean loss, within your rules, exactly the kind of loss your strategy accounts for, and something happens that no trading book really prepares you for. You need to make it back, right now. That feeling, that urgent, chest tightening, I need to fix this feeling, is the single most dangerous state a trader can be in. And I want to explain exactly why, because understanding the mechanism is what will let you interrupt it. Here's what's actually going on. When you lose a trade, your brain doesn't just register a financial event, it registers a threat in 2 ways. One to your livelihood, and the other to your self-worth. If you tied your self-worth to your performance, and most traders have, at least partly, then a loss isn't just a loss. It's a verdict. It's the market telling you something about who you are. The brain's response to a threat to identity is the same as it responds to any threat. Urgency, action, fix now. So you start looking for another trade. Except now, you're not looking for your setup. You're looking for relief. You're using the market as a mirror, trying to force it to reflect that you're good enough, that the loss was a fluke, that you're still in control. The truth is the market doesn't do that. It can't. And every trade you take from that state will only make it worse. I had a client, let's call him James, 1 losing trade, fine. 2 in a row, he'd tighten up. 3 in a row, he was gone. Not gone as in he'd stop trading, gone as in the person making decisions was no longer the disciplined version of himself. It was the version that needed to be right. He described it to me as a heat behind the eyes, kind of tunnel vision. He knew somewhere that he should stop, but stopping felt like giving up, admitting defeat. The mistake he made was blaming himself and making it so personal. If this sounds like you, here's what I want you to do. Stop being so hard on yourself. Instead, blame your system. If you followed your rules and the trade didn't work, start thinking that this time my system didn't work. Your job isn't to make money. Your job isn't to be right. Your job is to develop and test your system and execute it as closely and perfectly as possible. The metaphor I give clients is this. Imagine a book with 250 pages. Now imagine just reading 1 sentence of that book and writing a whole review of that book based on that 1 sentence. It's insane, but that's what traders do. 1 trade is a sentence, 1 day is a page, 1 month is a chapter, and a year is a book. But this next point is the most important of the lot. Traders treat their psychology like a fixed variable. They do the work once, read the books, watch the videos, maybe even work with someone like me, and then they assume it's done. But markets change, your life changes, your emotional triggers evolve. What destabilizes you in year 1 might be completely fine by year 3, and something you never anticipated becomes a new weak point. The traders who compound small accounts into real money over the years are not the ones with the best strategy. They're the ones who keep showing up as the best versions of themselves, consistently, session after session, month after month, and who take it seriously when they notice that slipping. So at the end of every trading week, ask yourself 3 questions. 1, did I follow my process? Not did I make money? Did I trade the way I said I would? 2, where did I feel the most emotional pressure this week? And 3, if I traded exactly like this for the next 5 years, where would I end up? That third question, that's the important one, because it forces you to look at your behavior through the lens of the long race, not the first corner. If the answer is positive, keep going. If the answer is not, then you can diagnose the problem, start working on what's stopping that from being a yes. But if you don't have a bulletproof system to make sure you're not overtrading, you won't stay in the game long enough to turn your small account into life-changing money. So if you want my playbook on how to stop overtrading in its tracks, click this video here, get my total strategy to stop overtrading instantly, and I'll see you there.